Everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. This is a super impromptu show. Literally 31 minutes ago, I was busy doing my corporate taxes for the year. And then I was like, I've had enough of that. I've got a busy night of streaming with other channels. And I thought, you know what? I've got to squeeze one out here. Pardon the pun. And I'd like nothing better at all than to talk about the injury crises that we might be facing. And of course, we've got a big game in, what is it now? Less than 48 hours, about 38 hours, something like that, against Luton. So I thought I'd get on my one of my favourite men from the community, Johnny H3232 from Twitter. You know him as Johnny. Johnny, mate, how are you, buddy? How's things going?
I'm all right. Yeah. I mean, listen, another day, another injury. I think they should abandon training just in case. Maybe just sit down and play some backgammon and some chess. Do virtual training. It might be easier. It might be better. Less damaging. But
the rest of the world is moving to some sort of virtual, I don't know, like Matrix version, virtual reality. Maybe they could do something, do some drills in the meta. I don't know. But listen, mate, we got a lot. Put the goggles on and figure out your tactics that way, right? Keep everyone surrounded by cotton wool. Because, mate, we are dropping like flies. And much like last season, when you get injuries, they're like buses. They all come along at once, and they all seem to happen in the same area of the pitch. And this time round, if I'm honest, it's happened in the most favourable area of the pitch, the area where we probably have the most depth, which is in our forwards, our wingish area. But there's a lot of niggling, doubts around Sonny. We're going to talk about all of this, mate. Just bear with me 1 second, Johnny. Let me say hello to a few people in the chat, and then I'm going to get your take on where we're at, what we can do about it. And then obviously, a reason I wanted to get you and Dave on. I'm doing a show with Dave tonight at 7:30, or 7 o'clock, I think it is. So I didn't want to necessarily bother him twice. But so I think, one of the two guys that can answer most questions about the youth team will be absolutely sufficient. Because I think we might have to be looking in that direction for some options between now and January. So we'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to it, let's have a look at who's in the house right now. Thumbs up, Fonzie says, good evening. I'd like to see some of the youth players promoted. That's what we're here to talk about. I think Santiago can play on the left. I think Donnelly can support Madison. I'm hoping Ange has the cojones to do it. Good to see you. Thumbs up. Fonzie. Drewzilla, massive man, big boy in the community. Great to see you, Drew. I really appreciate your support as always, my man. Let's go. Big up, Sean. Hope you're feeling better. Everyone, remember to smash the like and subscribe. I am feeling a little bit better, mate. I am, yeah. I've had a horrible dose of it, but I'm certainly on the tail end of it now. So I'm absolutely.
You've been squeezing. Hang on, Sean. You've been squeezing. You squeezed one out, and you've had a dose of it. Do you want to explain more?
100%.
Thank God we're on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine, though. I'm absolutely fine. Good to see you, Drew. Blaine Devs in the house. What's happening, Blaine? Great to see you, mate. Great to see you. Evening chat. Evening, Sean. Big up as usual. How's it going? It's just Mark Cook's in the house. Evening, Blaine. Saba, watch along. Don't know what that's. I think Saba must be doing something this evening. I know he does a lot of European watch alongs. Blaine is saying it's his 2-month membership. 2 months feels like 2 years. So who do you choose from Donnelly, Santiago, or Sun Sok Bell to play if Son is out? Or do we go direct with Valise? This is what we're going to talk about in a second, mate. Blaine, I love you, man. Appreciate you so much. Going to start, once I get a chance to do, because I'm going to a lot of home and away games at the moment in succession. So once I get to do my watch-alongs again, I will be handing out your very generous gifts to the community, mate, through the giveaways. I really appreciate you, mate. Peter Evans is in the house as well. As is On Your Bike, Scott, as is J-Mac, Derek, J-Mac, Trevor's in the house, Stevie Fraser's in the house, Tot Spurs in the house, Kookaburra, Nige, Rick in Rio, what's happening? Wilson, Ghost, Stradders. Yeah, the Scousers are all over the place, mate. Luton Dan's in the house. Excuse me. And as is Game of Throw-ins and John Tucker and Phil P. Great to see you all, guys. Great to see you all. We're going to get straight into it. 100 people are here already. It's incredible to have such an impromptu show. Get 100 people here. Smash the like button. You know the rules. Smash the subscribe. And also make sure you get over it. If you are on Twitter, it's very simple. I'll be putting the link in the chat in a minute. Get over to Johnny H3232, where you can find the greatest of all Tottenham spaces every single, not every day, but every other day, I guess, Johnny, right, naturally.
We were every day, but, you know, I think, you know, people, I don't want people to have had enough of me. So I tried to space, no pun intended, try and space it out. No, but we're back in the game. We're back in the game. And there's far more pleasurable things to talk about now than there was last year. Last year, it was a room to hang yourself in. But this year, it's a joyous room where everyone is.
You know what's weird though about it? Johnny, not the problem, but like the reality is last year there were so many games at this time of the year, at least there were so many games. Yep. We were still in every competition. We still had Europe. There was somewhat optimism in the Champions League, but obviously the football we were being damaged, like showing it was a real chore. This time around, I mean, the football's fantastic, but there's just too many gaps between each game, and this international break nonsense is driving me up the wall. I can't get enough of the dosage. I can't get enough of Ange Ball, and there's too many days between like the period of talking about the game that just happened before you can start talking about the game that's upcoming. You've got another international break after this one, and it's a frustrating affair. I can't wait till next season. I'm assuming that everything is going to go well with Tottenham, and we're going to be in some version of European football next year.
Pluses and minuses. Look, there's pluses and minuses. You know, we had the World Cup, so we were trying to cram the games in prior to the ridiculous Winter World Cup. And then, you know, we had the World Cup, and then we came back, and then we had to cram them all in again. And now we're in a situation, strangely, where, you know, are we gaining an advantage from our failure? Somewhat, I would say we are. Because
we absolutely are. Right? Yeah.
Could you imagine right now, with these injuries, if we'd been in the Champions League or the Europa League and the Haribo Cup or Karobo Cup or whatever they're calling it this year, could you imagine? Yeah. We would be in meltdown. We would be in serious trouble. And one of the interesting stats I threw out there a few days ago was that, which seemed to send a few into meltdown, was that at the same time last year, we had exactly the same amount of points after the same amount of games under Conte as we did under Ange. And in fact, we'd scored one more goal than we'd scored under Ange.
Yeah, there was a very popular tweet that you put out.
Yeah, it was skewed. It was skewed because obviously we hadn't played Man United, Arsenal and Liverpool. But still, a stat is a stat. And, you know, when you look at it, but when you look at what we were watching, you know, we were watching Conte ball, but we all knew in our heart of hearts
it wasn't going to last.
Shit wasn't right, you know, and it was all going to end in tears. Whereas this, you can't win, because when I say I'm going to enjoy every minute of it, I'm told I'm getting carried away. But why wouldn't you get carried away? Why wouldn't you jump on the train? I don't want to get off the train. When it eventually stops at the station and chucks me off, fine. But right now I'm going to enjoy every moment until it stops. And, you know, I would rather be in this position, enjoying this kind of football and the emotions. I've had more emotions in the last 4 games than I have done probably in the last 4 years, apart from maybe the Arsenal home game that we...
Yeah, 100%. I've never seen... You know what really annoyed me? Listen, I don't want to dwell on the Liverpool game. I've spoken about it enough ad nauseum. And I certainly don't want to talk about Klopp and all that. It's just embarrassing what they decided to... The path they've chosen is embarrassing with the way that they've gone about it. But I've had so many comments. So I take a lot of shorts from when I go to the game and I put them up. It's usually the celebrations after the game or whatever. And I was wondering why I had like 10x more comments in those shorts than I've ever had before. But they weren't from Tottenham fans. They were from Liverpool fans, from Arsenal fans, salty rival fans, which I never usually get. And they were like, look at you lot celebrating. You couldn't, you know, you had to take 9 men to beat an own goal, and you robbed us, all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, but none of us in the stadium knew that. At the time, none of us that were in the South Stand had any idea that the offside was not legitimate, right? All we knew was that you scored a goal, there was an offside VAR check, and it took 20 seconds to confirm that it was offside. That's all we knew. So we were all going mental thinking we'd won last minute. And of course, you like this narrative that it takes you until the 96th minute to win is somehow something to be shameful of when it comes to Tottenham. But if it was Arsenal that were doing it, or United, or Liverpool, or the bigger team, the naturally big, or the more supported teams, exactly. Then the way that that's represented, if they do it, is that's the sign of a mentality monster. But when Tottenham do it, it took you that long. That's a problem that's going to come on. You're going to come unstuck. And you know what we might do, Johnny. We might do, right? But until then, we're going to enjoy it.
Why do we live rent free in so many fans' heads? I mean, you go into festivals and everyone's taking the piss out of Spurs because we were the joke team. We were the joke team, right? Now we aren't doing Spursy shit. now we're doing Spursy shit, right? We're not doing Spursy shit. It's like, there's a problem. There's a problem. I think we have changed. It's very, very difficult to hate Ange. It really is. I just, for me, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I don't remember scenes like that in, the stadium, even the biggest whingers. And the guy who walked out, my favourite was the guy that walked out at the Sheffield United game when after 80 minutes he brought off. No. Next to me, spent the whole game, the previous game against Man United, going on about Richie being absolute toilet. And then when he brought him on in the 80th minute against Sheffield United, he goes, right, that's it. Come on, Don, we're going, right? And I think it was 87 minutes or something. He said, I'm off this crap, this shit. And that was so much pleasure.
Do you know what, mate? Do you know what? I don't know if I've made this. I don't know if I actually acknowledged this. I'm going to do it now because I feel like I want to be honest to the audience. The Sheffield United game, I did miss the winner. I was walking because I had to get outside to set up. I watched until the 94th, right? I got the equaliser in. I saw that. I went mental. And then I was like, wow, holy hell. But I've got to get downstairs. I've got to get my slot outside the ground before someone else takes it to get the fan cams. And as I'm walking down the stairs, I hear there's just this eruption. And I'm like, no, I've missed it. I've missed the winner. I've missed the winner. I can't believe it. And I think that emotion in me, that heartbreak of like, you absolute horrible fan that you walked out before the end of the game. But I was only going downstairs to try to get set up. But I felt like that carried over into my post-match interview when I was asking people. I was like, well, we weren't great, were we? So I want to hear the reasons why we need to be better. And in the comments on the fan cams, everyone was saying, mate, why is the interviewer so negative? And I think part of the reason was because I missed the winner. So against Liverpool, I made sure I stayed until the end and was part and parcel of the entire full celebration. Never letting that happen again.
I had the opposite problem at Liverpool, right? I was in a wedding in Marbella, and I managed to watch the first half at the hotel, and I got called all sorts of names when I said I thought it was onside. I was watching with a bunch of Spurs fans and said it's onside the goal, right? Go Specsavers, I won't go through all the names they called me. I didn't know it was going to be called later on. But when I got to the wedding, I tried listening to on Radio 5. No, you're banned because I don't have a VPN. So I get to this wedding and I'm running around this wedding looking for anyone who might be looking like they are watching the game. And in the corner, I saw 4 guys huddled around an iPhone just like this with their phone.
Yeah. You know, don't you? You just know.
I know. Yeah. So I went there, and there was 5 of us. I said, right, guys, we're not going to, no one's going to ruin this for us. No one's going to ruin this. So we're watching it. We're watching the stream, and we're waiting. And all of a sudden, 3 guys in another corner, right, who are obviously listening to on a radio where it was live, started
slightly ahead.
Mental.
Yeah,
they were ahead and they were going mental, right? There are 2 pockets of people going mental. But these sort of emotions that we're experiencing now, we've we've been starved of for such a long time, and I'm not going to apologise, and I don't think any Spurs fan should apologise for the emotions they're enjoying at the moment.
No,
long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Long may it continue. But we have to play. I mean, usually it's Tuesday afternoon we do Devil's Advocate, right? But together tonight, it's Thursday evening. We're going to have to play Devil's Advocate together on the realities of where we're at, because injuries always, they always are impactful. There's an incredible amount of injuries, more high-profile injuries that are affecting high-profile teams now than I can remember in any recent season. Arsenal have gone through a lot of theirs. Obviously, they've now, Arteta was probably a little bit silly that he played Saka, but that's their new one. They've got Partey coming back. They've got Marcelo. So maybe they've got through their kind of wave of injuries all at the same time.
Bigger. Their depth is
bigger.
Yeah.
Their depth is bigger. And they've managed to get through some injuries. Manchester City have got a lot of injuries. Manchester United have got a lot of injuries. Liverpool don't have many injuries at all. Maybe now they do after Gakpo and stuff. But in terms of relative frequency, Tottenham are starting to face the consequences of just wear and tear early. I don't know why there's so many more injuries this season.
We're playing one game. We're playing less games. We have got less games, right, this season than any single team in all 5 divisions. Okay,
but there's a lot of other, like the internationals, the summer, like with what else? Like I think there was an extended period after the end of the season where a lot of the internationals went away and played 3 or 4 games. That is slightly more than normal, and this double international breather. Like I don't know what the or maybe it's just pure bad luck, but Tottenham are now starting to face the consequences of injuries for whatever reason, but they all are happening in the same area of the pitch.
Can I give you a reason? Yeah. I actually said that the schedule for this tour was farcical, right? First of all, if you fly long distance, consistently, especially these guys that go to South America, you're on a plane, confined in a plane, even in one of these private jets, right? You're going to get injuries. And I don't think our pre-season was good enough. We spent most of the pre-season, we spent hours and hours and hours in the air. We didn't have enough games pre-season. We definitely didn't. We probably played the least amount of pre-season games than anybody. And then we're supposed to be up to speed with the Premier League and the intensity of Angeball and the crazy intensity of a lot of teams and how they're playing at the moment. And, when you see us still charging and racing for the last minute, I said, I believe that we will have a lot of injuries early doors because I don't believe we got proper pre-season in. And I think we would have a lot of players on the red zone. You can't go from playing... who did we play? We played West Ham, who'd already had 2 games. This was their 3rd. That was our first. And we had 45 minutes each. Then we go to Thailand and we don't play any minutes. Then we fly to Singapore and we play a few sailors. Okay. Then we come home and we play Ukraine. Yeah. And then we go
Shakhtar.
And play, the Shakhtar.
But then Barcelona. And then we travel back to Spain for Barcelona 3 days later or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
madness.
We start the league.
Madness.
And it was madness. And I didn't feel at any stage that we had what would be classed as a proper pre-season camp where you sit down. The tour was all about money. It wasn't about, in my opinion, preparing for the long, hard season ahead. And I did worry that, we were going to suffer because of it. I didn't expect this amount this early. But let's be honest, we are 6 games in and we've had this amount of injuries. It's quite considerable.
Are we lucky though, Johnny? Are we lucky in as much as the injuries that we've got have come in the area of the pitch that we have the most depth? Or are we unlucky that the injuries that we have had all seem to be in the same area of the pitch?
I think it's a bit of both, really. Listen. I said when I rated this transfer window rather controversially as a 4, it wasn't a 4 out of 10. It wasn't because I said, the signings were terrible. I thought the signings were fantastic. What I was worried about was our depth. Our depth hadn't been addressed. And, Paratici could only do so much. He could only add so many players to this squad. And I felt, we don't have to be a genius to know that if we lose Mickey van der Ven or Romero or Maddison, we fell off a cliff. When Maddison gets taken off, if Gio's not there, then we're off a cliff. We've got no creativity. Perisic, it's a massive loss. I hear people saying he's 34, he's gone, he's finished, don't worry about it.
Massive
Perisic
loss,
is the only
100%.
person in that team that can cross a ball from a dead position, right? He doesn't need to beat his man to get that ball in the box. And who will be starved of that supply? Richarlison or Veliz. If Richarlison wasn't there, Veliz is fantastic in the air. So I believe, players like Solomon and Brennan Johnson, they need to take on their man to beat their man to get the ball in the box. So yes, we've been lucky that it wasn't our centre backs, but I think all of these injuries are ultimately going to cost us. Our saving grace is the fact that we've only got one game a week. So whilst we might be starved of football action, it's the thing that's going to save us. As Arsenal found out last season when they played the Europa League and they played nobody and they put the kids out and still romped away with the league, but with the Europa League in those games without any problem, but still managed to field a fully fit and rested team for the league attack. So I think we are. The only injuries Liverpool got. Can you get an injury from crying? I'm not sure.
You might slip on that salty floor. You might do a groin
or broken
something.
tear ducts, salty tear ducts.
All right, but I mean, look. To be honest, I don't know what the answer is either. Whether or not we're lucky in as much as the injuries. Every team does get injuries, and we've suddenly, we're not without ours. We've got 8 people that are out. Benson Core on a long termer. Brian Hill's on his way back. Hopefully, maybe he will be or won't be available for this particular game. But you'd imagine he'll be back after the international break. So you got Brian Hill coming back. Apparently, you have Brennan Johnson that's not available for Saturday, but available for the week after against Fulham. So if we can get through the Fulham game, if we can get through the Luton game unscathed or any additional issues, then it's going to start to kind of catch up a little bit and we shouldn't be in too big a deal. But we are without Manos Solomon and Perisic for long-termers, which is an issue. What I want to ask you, mate, is at the moment, we don't know whether Sonny is fit. He's been called up to the South Korean squad. Actually, before I ask you about what we're going to do here, I want to ask you about this international break. It's for friendlies. South Korea are playing Vietnam in a friendly.
It's England a crucial game.
It's insane. Like, what is the possible need for a friendly right now? You've got another international break in November. You've got another winter break in January. Then these teams go away for their own. Some of the players go away to their teams for their own national tournaments. Like, if Sonny, let me ask you this. Sorry, I'm rambling here. If Sonny is going to play for Vietnam, against Vietnam, then does that eradicate the idea that you rest him against Luton? If he's fit enough to play for Vietnam, do you play him against Luton?
I think it's an absolute bloody disgrace. I've got to be honest with you. He's carrying an injury, okay? And I'll say it again. When you get on a plane, even if you're going on a private jet or whatever, I've flown to Singapore, right? I've flown to Asia, right? And anyone on here who's taken that 14-hour flight, even when I've been on business or premium economy or what have you, I get the other end, I'm wasted, okay? I don't know what day it is. I hate it. It takes me a few days to get right. He's going to go there with a muscle injury, right? Even if you're stretched out, the oxygen in the air, it's not good for the muscles if you're a professional sportsman, okay? Unless he's going to be walking up and down that aisle And then he's going to get there. He's going to fly to South Korea. Then he's going to go and meet them, travel to wherever the training camp is. Then he's going to get on another plane and fly to Vietnam. Then he's going to fly back to South Korea. Then he's going to fly back to London. If he's fit to play, fair enough. But basically, Sonny
he didn't look like he was fit, mate. He came up. Ange said he was never going to play 90 minutes against Liverpool. Ange said we weren't even sure if he was going to play at all, but he begged to play against Liverpool, which is a captain's performance. And he did put in a captain's performance, but there was never any intention to play 90 minutes. And what everyone's seen, I think everyone's seen on Twitter, the
video coming off.
He looked in agony. He looked in agony, which is the reason why I'm saying if you can find a reason to rest him, and then you get the Manor Solomon news, and you're like, now do you even have enough forwards to really rest him? But if you rest him for this game and then he flies off and plays 90 minutes in a friendly against Vietnam, that to me is a problem. And so, like, he should either not be in international duty, and then you can justify resting him and giving him 3 weeks breather before Fulham, and then I'm okay. But if you don't play him on Saturday, but you find out that he's playing in a friendly against Vietnam, then I'll be furious, because that will aggravate his injury even more, wouldn't it?
I think the club has to take appropriate action and tell Sonny that they're not going to allow him to go, to protect him. And let's be honest, South Korea should be hoping, that he doesn't get injured with the Asian Cup coming. I mean, let's be honest, right? He ends up getting a hamstring tear or a groin tear or something like that. Then he's going to be absolutely no use to them come the Asian Cup. So he needs to be protected, maybe protected from himself. So this is where the club steps in. I actually think this is the perfect game to drop Son to the bench, basically, because like Sheffield United, this is going to be very physical, this game. And I'm not saying it to, to say that, I just don't think this is the type of game. I think the physicality of it all should see Veliz potentially starting through the middle and Richie out on the left and Kulu out on the right. I think it's going to be a physical game. And,
Okay, so we're going to go straight. We're going to go straight into the Luton game. Okay, let's talk. So before you let's just talk about. Yeah. So let me kind of preface this. Go on.
I don't think that he should. I think the club needs to have a word with South Korea and say, look, we'd rather he stayed here and rested rather than, what are we looking at? 30 hours on a plane minimum? 30 hours.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Why? For a friendly against Vietnam? Who does it serve?
I don't know if there's a second game. I'm not sure if they've got a second game or something, but
yeah. Probably.
Yeah, look, to me, so much is dependent on him right now. Right? Like, I think if you can get through Luton, Johnny, with a win, with 3 points, I don't need to see us beating Luton 5-0. But if we can beat Luton 1-0 and figure out a way to do that without necessarily aggravating Sonny's injury, then all the better. But I don't want to see us rest him and then see him go off and play football for his international team on a friendly. That would really annoy me.
I want to see him come on for 20 minutes. Sorry, I want to see him come on and attack that Luton defence, with 25 minutes to go. Not starting him and basically taking a risk. But what is happening with this medical team? I mean, why are we suffering from these injuries? This isn't just this season. Last season, I always look at that, the way they dealt with Bentancur. For me, it was shocking that the treatment they gave him against Leicester. I heard Kane telling the medical team that they heard something go, and they should have left him on the stretcher, called a stretcher, and put the knee in a brace. But instead, they allowed him to stand up, walk around, try and go back on the pitch where he went down again, and then made him
Yeah.
walk all the way round the pitch again, aggravating all the damage and down the tunnel. I for me, I thought we'd maybe employed.
The problem is, Johnny, with medical staff is that who is going to be able to challenge them on their, it's like you or me going to the hospital, pretty sure that we're getting a terrible service and not being able to say anything because we're not medical experts. Can Daniel Levy sit there, or anybody at the club, can Scott Munn or whoever sit there and really challenge the role of medical experts if they're not a medical expert themselves? I think that might be an issue.
You're saying, Sean. I hear what you're saying, right? But I was watching that game, and straight away I said he's done. Right, get the stretcher on.
I agree with you.
I was screaming at that television set. Right, okay. You knew, right, when Harry came, where he told the medical team, we've got a very good authority that he heard something go, a loud bang, right, and he knew it had gone. Okay, what I'm saying is, you take precautions, you don't take risks. Remember, he got injured in the World Cup, and he was just coming back. He shouldn't even have been risked. We were getting trounced in that game anyway. That was Porro's first game with Tanganga at the back.
Yeah, 4-1.
It was nonsensical. Yeah, it was a shocking game. But when I see things like that, it makes me question, the medical team. We have 21st century science. We have incredible monitoring to see players who may be going into the red zone. And I feel like you have to protect players from themselves. I mean, you just said Sonny begged to play. Okay, Sonny begged to play.
He was necessary, right? He was necessary to do it because there isn't another finisher. Let's be honest. I don't know what I feel like I don't know what your stance on Richarlison is, but we went with Sonny up front, and this version of Ange Ball that is a little bit like FIFA settings. And you're playing FIFA, but you're basic. You're brand new to the game. You go out wide, and then you cut in, and then you push the ball back, and that's what we're trying to do all the time. And yet we scored a lot of goals this season doing that. Udogie on the left hand side, or whoever whipping the ball back, and it's Kulusevski or something that's going to tap the ball in at the far post. It's working really well right now, but I don't think it works the same way if you have Richarlison in the 9. I don't think it works necessarily that well if you have Veliz in the 9. I'm looking forward to Veliz. This is no discredit to him, but I think that I think Luton's going to be a really tough game. I think it's going to be a far tougher game than people. They're physical. They're going to put the low block in, mate. And let's not, even though we're flying high, let's not devoid ourselves from reality. It wasn't easy against Sheffield United. It really wasn't. I know we found a way to get it done, and I'm not sitting there dismissing the fact that it took the 95th and the 100th minute to do it. But the reality is that it took us that long to find a way to break them down. And I think it will be the same sort of scenario against Luton. It could be. If we get an early goal, then fine. It could be 4 or 5-0. But if we don't, then it's going to be increasingly frustrating. And if you don't have someone up the top end who knows how to finish, then we might struggle. And my argument is, a lot of people are saying don't risk Sonny. You need him after the international break because you've got Fulham, you've got Palace, you've got Wolves, all winnable games, but more difficult games than Luton. And to me, and people are saying that it's not just the Vietnam game. We're also playing against Tunisia. Oh, they're also playing against Tunisia, which is fine. But to me, I feel like, what do we do in a world where you don't play Sonny? Maddison, we don't even know if he's fully fit. We know he's carrying a knock. You don't have Brennan Johnson for Luton. You don't have Perisic. You now know you don't have Solomon. In a world where Maddison is also carrying a knock, what do? Does Kulusevski come into the middle? Because there's no Lo Celso either. Is Brian Hill ready? Brian Hill is training, but he hasn't played a minute.
He hasn't played a minute. Look, the thing is, I think the thing is here, Son really struggled against Sheffield United. He really could not get into the game, and because they were bullying him. And the same is going to happen, I believe, against Luton. So I think the physical presence is, look, I've seen Veliz play. I saw him play in the Under-20 World Cup by default because I was trying to watch the Israeli Under-20s, and I turned on and Argentina were playing. But he's fantastic in the air, right? He's fantastic in the air. But what good is it being fantastic in the air when we haven't got anyone really who's crossing the ball? We haven't got anyone crossing the ball, right?
Well, if you put Porro, if you played Porro at right wing.
Oh, I know. I've had this. I keep getting shot down, Sean. Every time I say, I said.
Go on, say it. Yeah, say it. I won't shoot you down. Say it.
Right. If Maddison's injured, right, I bring Kulu into the middle. I put Porro up at right wing. I put Emerson Royal at right back. I put Richarlison at on the left wing, and I play Veliz through the middle. That's what I do personally. That's what I would do because both.
I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that at all. For what it's worth.
Well, because I know that both players thrive off balls in the air, right? Richarlison's goals are in the air. Veliz has got incredible in the air, and he's even though he's only 19, he's got a lot of physicality about him. So
yeah.
I think that's our best option, but we are threadbare. And if Maddison goes down, we are struggling. What I'm surprised about on the weekend was when they were down to 9 men and we couldn't break them down. I did question bringing on. Yeah,
he's an Arsenal. He's an Arsenal.
I'll be delighted. Igal, I'll be delighted, mate. Let me tell you, I'll be absolutely delighted if he.
He's an Arsenal fan, Johnny. He's an Arsenal fan. I know he is. He's in it for a wind up.
I've been on there with a stream, Igal. I know exactly who's. But listen, look, if he does, great. But I was surprised against Liverpool that when we're chasing the game, they're down to 9 men, backs to the wall, that we bring on Skip and Højbjerg. It was very defensive. They took all their attackers off and we brought on our defensive midfielders. I felt that this was the one time that you could have risked putting Jamie Donnelly on, right, with his assist record at the moment as it stands, to give him 10, 15 minutes.
In what role? Because this is why I really wanted to.
When Maddison went off.
But bear with the kind of the youth team, because I just want to, before we get to the youth team, because that's the last 20 minutes we're going to talk about that, right? But because I do think there's options there, I do want to get your opinion on it, because I know you know the youth team better than I do. Before we get there, I don't disagree with your idea of. I mean, Veliz is a youth team player, obviously at the moment, technically.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with the solution of putting Emerson at right back. And because, Luton, if they are going to play low block and smash the ball, like they have got big, tall, strong, typically old school kind of forwards as well. And I don't think Van der Ven is going to have a problem with the pace. None of that stuff's an issue, but aerially, there was a problem.
Sorry, I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think Luton have got the fastest guy in the league. Is it Chidozie or? Yeah. I can't remember his name. He's the fastest player registered speed in the league this season. But I don't think Mickey Van der Ven has reached full speed yet.
But I don't think exactly. I just think that if Luton are gonna, do what I would imagine they're gonna, I don't think they're gonna play the ball. I think they're going to sit back and absorb as much as they can, make it frustrating, and then if they get the opportunity, they're going to bang it long, and then they'll see what happens. And whether or not it's that guy, I'm not sure who you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it. Or whether it's a long ball up the top, old school kind of old school football, get the knockdown and create some havoc that way. Like, there is a risk, obviously, from set pieces as well. And Emerson Royal last year was Tottenham's best defensive header of the ball. I don't care what anyone says. Even if the stats don't support it, I watched every single game last year. Emerson Royal was spectacularly good at protecting the back post when balls were whipped in. And I think that there's an argument, when needs must, you could deploy Porro in that if Maddison can't make it, and if Sonny also can't make it, then you're going to have to shuffle things around. And if you do play Veliz, and if you do have Richarlison on the pitch, then there's aerial threats up the top end. And so you need someone who can put the ball on. I get destroyed for it.
Sean, I get destroyed every time I mention it. You've got it in for Porro. And I said, I've not got it in for Porro. I just think Porro, we saw against Burnley, the 2 assists he got for Son. We saw it that cross which led to the own goal.
He's probably the second most technical player in the team, mate. I think Pedro Porro could possibly play. Not only can he play right back, which I didn't give him credit for, to my mistake. I thought
neither did I.
I don't think many Tottenham fans did, but he's proven us all wrong there. We all think he can play right wing if necessary. I would go as far as to say he's that good technically that if needed, he could play in the Pape Sarr role. He could play in the second 8. There is even an argument, such as my confidence in his technicalities, that he could play in the 6 if absolutely needed. That is how I wouldn't want him to do it, but I think that he is that good technically that he could figure it out, and he's that good in the head that he could figure it out. I don't think that that's something we're ever going to see, but could
if you
play
get the balls
in the second 8.
I was just going to say, if you get those balls, look, when you're a defender and you're running back towards the goal when a team's attacking, I want to see that ball whipped in first time. I don't want to do what Kulu does, beat his man and come back and beat his man, because the defenders have adjusted and they're now facing the ball. I want that ball whipped in when they're running back towards the goal, when they're under pressure. And that's what I believe Porro can do. And also, with Veliz and Richarlison, we got 2 guys who like to attack in the air. So
I just want to quickly press pause for a second and shout out Blaine there for the super chat. I'm so sorry, mate. I didn't see it. Sean, I'm going to say it. Walking out before the winner, you should be forced to wear the Dyer shirt of shame. Do you know what? I probably have got in my archives a Tottenham shirt with Dyer's name on the back of it. I think I've got one for everyone that's played at some point. I'm not sure they'll fit me anymore. Just like those
Danny Dyer, maybe, but not
those 4XL shirts that come from Asia, and most of them don't fit.
If you got them,
mate, I really do appreciate your super chat, Blaine, as always, mate. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was embarrassing. I hate myself for missing it, mate. But look, I was trying to get set up for the fan cams. Listen, Johnny, let's focus on for the last sort of 15 minutes, mate. I need to get your thoughts on where we're at with the youth team, because for me, the youth team is absolutely killing it. The 21s, what are they now? Like 6 unbeaten in 6. They've conceded 2 goals and scored 18 or 20 or something crazy.
21 goals. 21 goals. Yeah.
21 goals, and they've also undefeated 2-2 in the cup competition. Obviously, Donnelly is the flavor of this season. Iago Santiago was the flavor of last season, but hasn't really. He's just been maybe overshadowed by more levels from Donnelly.
No, I think the opposite. The opposite. I think Iago last season I thought was losing his way, and this season, since he's been pushed out left, he's been a revelation since he's gone out on that flank. So
he doesn't train with the first team like Donnelly does he?
Yeah. So this is my argument, right? So I had this conversation in a space yesterday evening with Jacko. He is the most natural. He's playing out on the left at the moment, and he's smashing it. I think he's got 6 goals. I think 6 goals and 3 assists. I think it is. Yeah, he's 20 years of age, so he's a couple of years older than Donnelly. Now, my argument is, if he was that good, or Ange thought he was that good, why has he not been forwarded to the to train with the first team? Is it now needs must, and he needs to be drafted in? One would assume so, because if they're playing the same system, look, Spurs of old, we'd have 4 different coaches all through the youth setup, and everyone would have their own system. For once now, we're all playing the same way. Just like how Ajax or Arsenal did in years gone by. So the transition between youth and first team, should they be called up, should be more seamless. But Iago Santiago is definitely doing it this season, more so than last season. As I said, he's 20. He's a little bit more mature. He maybe should be called up. There is an argument for it, because he plays out on that left-hand side. And we need someone that can, affect stuff on that side now. He has to be looked at. Donnelly, Jamie Donnelly can play.
Is he ready? Is Donnelly ready?
It's a
The reason I
huge
ask,
jump.
before you give your answer, the reason I ask is, to me, loaning players out comes with a consequence, and the consequence is the tactical diversity from what you're trying to achieve. For the first
Correct.
time in however many years, we've now aligned our under 21s, the PL2, and thank heavens, I don't know why it took 20 years to figure it out, but if you're going to play a certain system, then it would be ideal to have your youth team learning the same system. The problem is that loaning these players out, like Alfie Devine going to, is it Port Vale he's at? Like, does Port Vale play the same system that Ange does? And I don't know the answer because I don't watch them, but I'm presuming it's no, because I don't think there's very many teams in world football that play with a double inverted fullback and play the 2-3-5. And so for me, the question mark is like, is there the value if you've got someone that's killing it in the PL2 and you don't know if they're ready for the step up, and you go, okay, well, the next opportunity to loan players out, do you loan them to a team that doesn't play the system, or do you keep them where they are, keep their confidence high, but then every now and again do what we've done with Donnelly, which is bring them into the first team in the bench? Obviously, he didn't get any minutes against Liverpool, but George Abbott got minutes at the tail end of last season. Does Donnelly get, if Tottenham happen to be 3-0 up against Luton, is there any issue with bringing Donnelly on for 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes? Is there value in that scenario versus loaning him out to a team that doesn't play the same model?
100%. 100%. I actually, if I was Alfie Devine, I'd be pretty pissed off right now. I know he's doing very well at Port Vale. He's been man of the match a couple of times. I mean, I understand why they thought to get him out.
I see this, Dave. I see it, mate. You've seen it 3 times. I've seen it, mate. Appreciate you, buddy. Hope you're okay.
I was shocked at Devine going there, because right now, with Gio injured and Maddison, the way he is, I think Alfie Devine is ahead of Donnelly in the position that he would come in for. Probably. I would say so. Jamie Donnelly is he plays with unbelievable passion. He will play anywhere on that pitch. I think he played in about 6 positions last season. He'll just play where he's told, and he'll smash it.
But is he ready for 10 minutes at Premier League level, or is that going to daunt him?
We're only going to find out when you put him into it. And I actually felt that at Liverpool, when we were trying to break them down and we were getting nowhere, and we didn't really have much of a threat against us with 9 men, obviously, that was the time to not put Oliver Skip on, but to bring on Jamie Donnelly to see if he could unlock and pick that defence. And he's the type of player, with the amount of assists he's got this season and his skill set, I thought he was the player to do that. But
and he's not a child. He's not a child physically. He's 5'11".
He's 18, but he's not.
But he's also incredibly fast. He's not like a natural winger, but he's got bags of pace. He's got a good, intelligent brain on him.
Not a striker. He's a second.
He's a second striker, but he has played on the left, played on the right. He's played all over the pitch for the other 21s. I'm just saying, I know that Saka and the Michael Owens, the Sakas, the Rooneys, I know that they're the one in a million type of players that, you're not necessarily going to level Donnelly at, but you never know until you know. And sometimes these players just would thrive. What's the worst that can happen?
For me, I had this conversation about Ashley Phillips, right? I think, when you're 18 and you're playing up front, or you're playing in the middle of the park and you make a mistake, you can get away with it. You'll get your next chance, okay? Same if you're an 18-year-old striker like Ferguson and you miss your opportunity, another one will come. But when you're an 18-year-old centre-back, one mistake can cost the game. And there's a lot 100%. Depending on it. And I just think that, should we have bad injuries? Should we have those injuries? And I don't want to see a midfield of Oliver Skip or Bentancur, Basuma and Saul, right? I want to see if Maddison was to be dropped. I just think that an 18-year-old, if he's good enough, can play. But it is a big step up. It is a big step up. Make no bones about it. I've been raving about Jamie Donnelly for a long time. And I think Alfred Devine is another one who, is super, super talented. Right now, I think if Devine was at this club, he'd be 100% on the bench. And I reckon he'd probably have got a few minutes now, which is kind of a shame to be out in Port Vale doing his stuff for a season. I don't know if
Warren's asking. I don't know. I don't know the terms of the contract.
Not sure, Warren, to be honest with you, what the deal was. But, at the time of the loan, I suppose it made sense with Maddison, Gio, and, Bentancur coming back and all the other players that we had. We had quite a crowded midfield. I suppose the club weren't to know that all of a sudden we would break down so quickly, so many players struggling or injured. But I think it's a shame that Donnelly's not there. Santiago, what's wrong with giving him a chance? In a game like Luton, you put him on the bench, and in 15, 20 minutes you can't break him down, bring him on that left-hand side. We can only see what happens. God forbid we should have any more injuries in that Luton game, because they will be physical. They will try and get at us. They'll know that Sonny's carrying. They'll know Maddison's carrying. So they'll be at him. If you were the manager, what would you be saying? Maddison ain't great. Make sure you make your presence felt early doors. Mm-hmm. Because if we take Maddison out of the game, Tottenham have got nothing. We saw it. We've seen it in the games where Maddison has been subbed. The drop off.
So what do you do then? So, all right, we've spoken about the players. I think we're both thinking that maybe none of these kids from the youth team are ready to, clearly not ready to start the game, but that maybe Donnelly, maybe Santiago will get some time on the bench, but
they could get minutes.
It's a large chance to lose, sort of thing, right? That we're not looking for them to be the game changers. So, in a world where we don't know what, let's assume that Maddison is fit, because we haven't heard as much. We've heard the rumors about Sonny. We haven't really heard them too much about Maddison. If Maddison is fit and Sonny is in the same state he was before the Liverpool game, where he wants to play, he wants to be available, but he's carrying a knock. For me personally, the Manor Solomon thing has created another, it's another wedge in the conversation, Johnny, right? So it's another disaster. But all I want to do is get through the Luton game. If we can get 3 points by hook or by crook, then I know that after the international break, you're going to have Brennan Johnson back. You're getting to the point where you might even be close to having. Maybe. Yeah, maybe Brennan Johnson, maybe Sessegnon's back around that time as well. Bentancur's not too far away. So then you're in a position where you're starting to get some of the sort of names back, but you're still going to always be. We've got 2 or 3 players out for long-term injuries, which is a problem. What do you do for the starting 11? If you are Ange Postecoglou right now, knowing what you know, that you've got 75% fit Maddison, 60% fit Sonny, and you know who's out. What do you do?
I do think that we can do without Sonny and maybe bring him off the bench in this sort of game, which is physical. So we match him physically, but we cannot do without Maddison. If you take Maddison out of that team with no other creativity in that team, we're screwed. We're devoid of any ideas or any flow. So for me, you bring Son on potentially as a sub late on. When the Luton players get tired, if they've been defending hard for a long time. But for me, I'd go Veliz through the middle, and I'd go Richie.
Start. You're going to give Veliz a start, his first start, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would.
So Veliz in the 9. Who on the right?
Kulu on the right and Richie on the left, with Maddison in the middle. Yeah. If Maddison's also injured and struggling, then, as I said to you before, I'd bring Kulu into the middle, into the Maddison role, Porro at the top, Emerson Royal there, And then I would 100% still be playing Veliz and Richarlison, because both those two love that ball, that high ball or that cross. And we know that the only player that's capable of getting the ball in is really Porro. I just find, I'm not against Kulu. I just find it immensely frustrating. You beat your man, whip that ball in. Just whip the ball in.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to see it. I just don't want to see him cutting back. It's monotonous. I just want to see him attack.
It annoys me, mate. It annoys me because whenever I have seen him take the man on, the few times that you see him take the man on and actually whip the ball in with his weaker foot, his weaker foot is better than I think he gives it credit for.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember him ever putting in a bad cross with his right foot. I know he clearly prefers his left, but he should trust his right more than I trust his right foot more than I think he does, because I think his right
foot
is
it a go, man. Give it a go. Listen, look, the thing is, I'm not being funny. You know, when training stops, right? Do not go in and start playing PlayStation or, you know, hop off down to IKEA, right? Get back onto the pitch. Onto the pitch, right? Forget the meatballs. Get back on the pitch and start practicing with your right foot over and over and over again. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Whoever made that comment before, that's what we were talking about, moving Kulu into the middle.
Yeah, too predictable. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Too predictable on the right. I've said it. Unfortunately, you know, I said as soon as Ange was announced that Kulu couldn't play on the right and Sonny couldn't play out wide on the left. I've stuck with it. I'm not going to change it. That's what I believe. And I think they have to adapt their game. Going to change that opinion. I've changed on Porro, but I'm not going to change on that opinion.
No, listen, I think Porro surprised everybody. I think Kulu could play in the 10. I do think he's capable of doing it. I also think Kulu's capable of playing on the left-hand side. For what it's worth, if Kulu really is that desperate to play with his stronger foot, then in the Ange system, there's no reason why you can't put him on the left-hand side so he can take players on with his stronger foot, go to the byline and whip the ball in. And then you could play somebody else on the right-hand side when they're fit. Maybe not right now, but Brennan Johnson against Fulham or against Crystal Palace.
Well, you could play
put Johnson on the right. Or Porro, exactly,
there,
yeah.
Then you'd have to put, if you put Porro there, then you would have to play Richie through the middle. You then play Richie through the middle then Richie would be getting the balls in the air that he needs. Because I tell you, Perisic was playing right now, Richie's game would be far more deadly with those first-time balls because he'd be attacking them. That's what that's what he needs. If you look at a lot of the goals that he scored, most of them have come from a Perisic ball in.
Look, I think Kulu on the left is something I'd like to see at some point. This like invert the system a little bit more, because I do think he's got a wonderful cross on him with his left foot. He knows where to put it. He just happens to like doing it, you know, from the back, like from the corner of the box to the back post. But if you ask him to do it on the left-hand side, you'd force him to go to the byline and whip it towards the back post. Then you could have someone like Richarlison heading the ball. I think it's an untested scenario, and I think it could work well. Last question I've got for you, mate, about tactical options is Bryan Hill. If he is fit for this game, or if he is not fit for this game but is coming back, you know, soon, what's your take on him? Do you see him as a left winger? Do you think he'll thrive in the Ange system? Do you think there's an option for him to play through the middle in a case where Lo Celso leaves or remains injured and Maddison needs a break? Could Bryan Hill play in the 10 like Modric was asked to do when he first moved from the left-hand side under Harry Redknapp? I think that Bryan Hill I like Bryan Hill. I think he has got bundles of potential. I want to see him used, but I just don't know how to best utilize his talents. And I want to hear your take on it.
I actually think that, funny enough, I thought he was a player that would actually potentially thrive in Ange's system because he likes to attack down the flanks. He's clever enough on those jinky runs. He needs to have, he doesn't have Kulu's upper body strength to hold off players. Kulu has amazing body strength. I mean, some of his hold-up play in some of the games that we've seen this season when we're trying to relieve pressure has been fantastic. I'll give him that. out on the flank. But I think going forward, Brian Gill has great potential on the flanks. But it's a lot to ask, having no pre-season. He's had no pre-season. He was injured. He didn't fly out to the game. You know, he had that terrible moustache injury. And
the razors are out, mate. He's almost ready to come back.
Yeah,
the razors are out. The Mac 5 that
he's looking for the Mac 5 sponsorship, isn't he? But I think he has the potential with a jinking run. Listen, I think potentially he has more to him than Solomon, potentially. We have to see, you know. I mean, let's be honest, Fabio hasn't got many signings wrong. Is this one wrong? Maybe he's going to be a very good player, but maybe not in the Premier League. I'm not sure. But if he's fit, he'll be
I want to
on
see
that
him, mate. I've got more faith in him than most people do. I genuinely have. I don't think he's ever put in too bad a shift. He always works hard. He gets back. He tracks back. He does the defensive responsibilities. And I think that he has so much more to his game. And this idea that he's just not strong enough to play centrally, I think it's nonsense. I think he just needs to learn that in the Premier League, you can't fall over every time you get touched to the same degree. I think it's part of his culture in his mind.
Yeah, he doesn't know any better. Yeah.
He doesn't know better, but he needs to learn to ride the tackle. Luka Modric used to be just like him way, way, way back. I remember Harry Redknapp brought him in and said, take him off the left, put him centrally. And all of Harry Redknapp's coaches said no. And he went, trust me, do it. And then a couple of weeks later, Harry Redknapp had to say to him, look, give up the falling over nonsense. Ride the tackle. Use your low center of gravity to dance through the challenges, and you'll be a brilliant player. And Luka Modric never went left ever again. Never again in his career. And I think that Brian Hill could be utilized in the same way. I'm going to stick to my belief that this guy is not just a good player that might not be suited to the Premier League. I think he is a good player, and I think he could be a brilliant asset for us. He just needs to stay injury-free and get the opportunity. And I think through this injury crisis, I think that he will get a chance in the next month. And I think he'll really fly under this system.
He's been abused at this club, if you want my honest opinion, Sean. I don't think he's been looked after properly. Young kid coming over here, homesick. You know, Conte didn't really, you know, embrace anybody, right? You know, he wasn't that sort of fatherly figure. He was more like an ogre. But you look at players like Modric, David Silva and co, you know, little players, and, you know, how they managed to get through. I mean, I remember him against Palace last year. What a fantastic game he had against Crystal Palace. And what did he do? He got rid of him. He said, get rid, right? I mean, how encouraging is that? You have your best game for the club, and then your manager says, nah, get him out. I don't get it. I think there's a lot more for us to see of him. He's a young kid. He's still maturing. And I just think I'm all for giving Brian Gill. And this is his opportunity, because I think without the injuries, this might force Angie's hand, basically.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. I genuinely think that Ange could put an arm around him and do the Harry Redknapp trick, like Harry Redknapp did on Modric, and we could have an absolute talent there. It will remain to be seen, mate. We've got 38 hours, whatever it is, 40 hours until the game. What is your prediction as a scoreline against Luton? I'm worried, mate. I've got to be honest. I feel like there's a banana skin. And this could be one. And it would drive me up the wall after all of the shenanigans that have happened this week and all of the rival fans that have been saying, like, screw Tottenham. I need Ange Postecoglou to be telling the team, you've got through Arsenal, you got through Liverpool. Do not rest on your bloody laurels against Luton. I need Ange to need them to remain focused. You take your eye off the ball for a second in this league, and the whole house of cards can come tumbling down. So what's your prediction, mate? What do you think is going to happen?
Are the refs going to give us anything? You know, are the refs going to, every time we tumble over, no, not penalty. No. Right?
So we're going to have to earn it ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to be really physical. I think they're going to get at us. And I think it's crucial to score that early goal. And I believe 3-0, something like that. If we don't, I think it's going to be a brutal, bruising game where, again, it could go down to the end of the game for us to win it. But have we got enough on the bench? That's why I say keep Son there, challenge them physically with because I don't see the point of putting Son on getting bashed about in that game, and then taking him off for a Veliz. I would rather Veliz and Richie bash them up, right, physically.
Yeah.
Then bring up Son when they've softened them up a bit for the last 20 minutes or so. So, no, so I'm going to go, if we score early 3-0, and if not, it's going to be a late 1-0 or 2-1 victory. Very hard to call this one. I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I know everyone thinks it is, but...
No, I definitely don't think it's going to be... Part of me wants to...
Them? What did Chelsea beat them?
3-1, I think. I think, was it 3-1? Let's have a look. Luton, Chelsea. 3-2. Oh, no, that was last year. Hang on a second. They beat them 3-0 at home. They beat them 3-0 at home. Yeah. First game of the season was that, or second game of the season?
I don't know. It was about the only game they won up until last night. The other night.
Yeah. Mate, listen, I'm a betting man. I'll have several bets, but one of my bets might just be, I know it sounds disgraceful, but just to to kind of hedge my risk a little bit emotionally, I'm going to have a little bit of a 1-0 Luton victory, a tenner, because I'm sure you get really good odds on it, just to make it a little bit less painful. But I think that Tottenham will win, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I really don't. I think the people that are assuming, and if we don't win, there'll be a meltdown. And so that's why I need Ange to be reminding the team the next sort of 24 hours. Take it as seriously as every other game.
I was just going to say the fastest player in the league this season is, I was right, Chiedozie Ogbeni.
Ogbeni. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Chiedozie Ogbeni, right? 36.93 miles an hour, faster than Neto, Gordon, Solanke, Bueno, Diaby, Traore, Chilwell, and Rasmus Holland, right? So,
wow.
So he's going to be
not a problem for Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven doesn't need to get up to full pace yet. He will do it in this game. In this game, he could get up to full speed. He could do.
It's a
small pitch. It's going to be fascinating. Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah,
I was going to say one thing. We, interestingly enough, Spurs have been linked with Johan Ange, or Lange, with an Ange in it. Is this Scotsman idea of a joke? Is it the Aston Villa sporting director? Oh, I like.
Oh, is that the guy? Is that the guy? Is it Lange? Okay.
Yeah, I like him because he's got Ange in his name, right? Lange. Oh, yeah.
Scottman knows what he's doing. He's got big Ange. We've got big Ange and little Lange.
Lange and Ange. Right. Oh, I like him. Why have you signed him, Daniel and Scottman? Scott, why do you fancy him? I like the name, right?
It's a good name. It's a big name.
It's like the housewife who backs the horse in the Grand National because it's called washing the dishes, right? Oh, that's what I do. So,
careful, we're going to get cancelled.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're going to get cancelled. Yeah. No, all good. Listen, Johnny, mate, absolutely fun. Don't want to swear. Almost. That's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure to have you, mate, on as always. I will over to you to plug. I mean, obviously, we know Johnny H3232. Guys, if you're not on Twitter, get yourself on. I'm gonna get the link for Johnny right now. But Johnny, where else are you on? Where can people find you on YouTube apart from here?
On YouTube, I'm Tottenham on Tour with Brian Daigle, and we do Ange Management, which is the day after the game. So it will be Sunday morning at 9:30 on Sunday morning. We have a good following on that show. So we just break down the show in negatives, positives, special mentions, and then the man himself. We speak about Ange and how he's come across in that game. So good, bad, and indifferent. We analyse it all. And listen, thanks, Sean, for having me on as always, mate.
Hey, absolute legend, buddy. Thank you so much. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Get over to Johnny H3232. The link is in on Twitter. And obviously, you guys know where Tottenham on Tour is. I haven't got the link for that, but you can find Tottenham on Tour by very easily just searching for Tottenham on Tour. I know you guys all know where Brian Daigle's channel is. It's very, very popular. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on the way out. And also, I want to say a massive thank you to Blaine for the super chat, my man. Guys, we are out of here. You can find me. I was going to be on the Irish Hotspur at 7, but it's not happening anymore. At 8:30, you can find me over on Lead Judges. If you're an Arsenal, if you want to see some Arsenal banter, I'm on Lead Judges, the Arsenal guy, his channel for the evening roundup and a few other places as well. But guys, we're going to leave it there. I'll see you tomorrow for my walk with the dog. And I will see you on Saturday afternoon with some fan cams after the game. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, guys, bye-bye.
Come on, you Spurs.